A stark reminder that the former president's personal lawyer is still under criminal investigation. That probe dates back to at least August of 2019 and is focused on Giuliani's dealings in the Ukraine. The very same scandal at the center of Trump's first impeachment, because he got impeached 2 times. As the New York Times reported yesterday, investigators are also focused on the 2019 decision to oust the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch. And we already know that Giuliani played a key role in her removal. The New York Times is now reporting in a breaking story, quote, at least one of the warrants was seeking evidence related to Ms. Yovanovitch and her role as ambassador. The question for prosecutors is whether Giuliani was acting on behalf of a foreign client in pushing for her removal. Additionally, according to the Times, quote, the warrant also sought his communications with Ukrainian officials who had butted heads with Ms. Yovanovitch, including some of the same people who at the time were helping Mr. Giuliani seek damaging information about now President Biden. Meanwhile, Giuliani's legal exposure may explain why he had such a meltdown over Trump's loss in November, fighting to overturn the results long after the votes were counted and certified. And that's because Trump's DOJ was actually shielding Giuliani while Trump was in office, seeking to, quote, block the warrants and slow the investigation, according to the New York Times. In contrast, President Biden told NBC News that he's restored the independence of the Justice Department, saying he wasn't even briefed on the raid of Giuliani's home. I should also...
Were you aware of that raid before it happened?
I give him my word I was not. I made a pledge. I would not interfere in any way, order, or try to stop any investigation the Justice Department had underway. I learned about that last night when the rest of the world learned about it. That's not the role of the president. The Justice Department is the people's lawyer, not the president's lawyer.
I should also say that the investigation of Giuliani could pose a threat to his former boss as well. After all, Giuliani suggested in 2019 that he is the goods on Trump, and that could be problematic to the former president if Giuliani is induced to flip.
I mean, I've seen things written like, he's going to throw me under the bus.
Right.
When they say that, I say, he isn't, but I have insurance.
So it's no surprise that Trump is turning to Fox News to whine about how unfair it all is.
He just loves this country, and they raid his apartment. It's like so unfair and such a it's like a double standard like I don't think anybody's ever seen before. And I don't know what they're looking for, what they're doing. They say it had to do with filings of various papers, lobbying filings.
But what Giuliani did in Ukraine was more than just a paperwork violation. He effectively took control of U.S. foreign policy, usurped the role of American diplomats, and leveraged Ukraine for political purposes.
The official foreign policy of the United States was undercut by the irregular efforts led by Mr. Giuliani.
If we wanted to get anything done with Ukraine, it was apparent to us we needed to talk to Rudy.
Giuliani's efforts to gin up politically motivated investigations were now infecting U.S. engagement with Ukraine.
As we learned in those impeachment proceedings, all of Giuliani's efforts in Ukraine had one goal: to dig up or fabricate dirt on Joe Biden before the 2020 election. But the most damning part of all of this is that the U.S. intelligence community has now confirmed that the smear campaign against Biden in Ukraine was part of a Russian operation directed by Vladimir Putin himself to influence the U.S. election. According to their report, the Kremlin pushed misleading or unsubstantiated allegations against President Biden to the U.S. media and some close to President Trump. In other words, Giuliani was a willing pawn in a foreign influence campaign against our country.